Shalom, shalom. I want to first start off by giving all honor, glory, and praise to YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI. YAHAWAH being the name of the Heavenly Father, who the world ignorantly calls God. YAHAWASHI being the name of who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Okay, I also want to give a double honors and respects to the apostles and elders, the men of great millstones who teach this truth and who rule well. Lord's will, I want to do this quick video regarding this mark of the beast, what it is, as we are fastly approaching this time where this is about to fully be implemented. A lot of people, whether they know that this is the mark of the beast or not, a lot of people by the masses are going to take this, which is the RFID chip. A lot of people are going to take this chip, again, knowing it is the mark of the beast, or whether they know it or not. So without further ado, I just want to do this quick video. Just edifying. And I want to start off with Revelation chapter 13. Start at verse 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Now that word dragon goes back to draconian, which is basically it's basically like a harsh set of rules. As you see, Esau clamping down on society now. If you're paying attention to concurrent event, current news, if you're up to date, a lot of people are praying and hoping things get better, which is not. But reading on, it says, and he exercises all the power of the first beast before him. Now, just real quick, this is going back to the Roman Empire. And again, that's where this whole the whole draconian law system came about. America, which is known in the Bible as Babylon the Great, as well as other names, but primarily Babylon the Great, is just basically a regurgitation of the Roman Empire. Lord's will, that's another video for another time. Lord's will, I can do a video. But continuing on, it says verse 12, and he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and he causes the earth and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. Again, that first beast going back to the Roman Empire. That kingdom fell, and it came back as which this America is that basically that deadly wound that was healed. But again, that's another topic for another time. Don't want to digress. Verse 13, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth, by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword, and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. So one thing about this ministry is looking up words. One thing about being in this ministry, you gotta bounce back. You gotta you gotta um you gotta dab into some Hebrew. You gotta dab into some Greek. If I'm not mistaken, most of the Old Testament was written in the Hebrew and the New Testament in the Greek. So you gotta. It's basically it's important to look up the etymology of words, which a lot of our people, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians, a lot of our people are just straight up lazy. But nevertheless, yeah, it's important to look up words in this ministry. So from there, we're gonna look up this word mark. Charagma, which I believe the etymology of that word is Korox. Yes, Korox. Korox, which basically goes into like a basically it goes into like a pointed tip, something like a sharp point, basically. But if you look up that word charagma, it goes into something inserted. If you look up that word, something inserted, a stamp and imprinted mark, a mark branded upon horses, thing carved, sculpture, graven work of idolatrous images. But yeah, that word charagma, again, that's a Greek word, goes into it means something inserted. So going back to, I'm going to read this verse again, Revelation 13 and 16. It says, he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Okay. And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Okay, so basically, and again, this is something that is getting ready to be implemented on throughout all the four corners of the earth. Okay, this mark, again, which is the RFID chip. This is something that Esau is going to propose, because like I said, if you're paying attention to what's going on, to the current news, current events or whatnot, you'll see that, and this is something that has been slowly going on over the past couple of years. Everything's been gearing towards, everything's pretty much going cashless. Everything's been going more towards the digital aspect. A lot of places, some places are, they don't even, like, you have to have a chip when you swipe your debit card or whatever. Some places it has to have a chip. Some places, some places like Sweden, if you pay attention to what's going on in Sweden, they're like a completely cashless society. So a lot of places already have, they're already implemented this RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast. And I always say this, to people I talk to, everything that you see going on in these other countries is basically a prelude to what's going on, to what's about to happen here in America. As you see, they're talking about with this whole coronavirus and COVID-19, they're talking about, how it's basically, like the money can be contaminated now. So, now they want to get rid of the dollar. Again, they want to push everything towards, make everything digitalized, and everything's is being like everything that you see going on is it's not a coincidence. Everything has been thoughtfully planned out, and this is something that these top banking elites, they've been, they've planned this out for years, many years. um, um you see things about the stock market crashing, and how basically the value of money is being devalued. I mean, all these things is like I said, it's not a coincidence. And these top banking families, they want these things to happen so they can implement their plans. And as I mentioned before, we're I mean, it's already here. It's just not. It just hasn't been implemented yet. It hasn't been forced yet. They're going to make it to a point where they're going to get it to a point where they're going to basically make that chip like a popular thing, like a trending fab or something. It's going to get to a point where people are going to there's going to be an option, but then it's going to come to a point where you're going to have to take that chip. And if you know the scriptures, if you understand the scriptures, Lord, well, I can get into it a little more. If you understand the scriptures, if you take that chip, I mean, that's pretty much it for you. If you take that chip, I mean, there's no room of repentance for you. The scriptures talk about, and you taking that chip. Lord's will, I can find it. If you take that chip, you're gonna partake in all the fury of the Most High YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI. You're gonna partake in here it is. Revelation 14, verse. I'm gonna start at verse. I'm going to start at verse 9. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahawah, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. So if you take that chip, again, I mean, you're going to partake, because there's certain judgments and plagues and all kind of woe, which is destruction. There's certain things set out for, anyone who takes that chip. You're going to partake in, as it says, the mixture into the cup of his indignation. You're going to be a partaker of his indignation. Because if you take that chip and you worship the image of that beast, you're basically pledging allegiance to Esau, the devil. You're basically acknowledging Esau as your God. Okay. Let's get into I'm gonna get into a little history, because I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but Esau, they know these scriptures. They don't use it to exercise, righteousness, but they know these scriptures. To a certain extent, they understand, certain elements, there's certain things. So get into a little, because a lot of people think that this mark of the beast is something that's spiritual. You have other Israelite camps and groups, they teach that this mark is accepting the white man's philosophies, or accepting Christianity, or I don't know, some other nonsense. But clearly, going back to Revelations, 13 real quick. It says, Revelations 13 and 16, it says, and he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell. So this is something that's going to be implemented, that is going to, like, something like accepting Christianity is not going to, stop you from buying or selling. Okay. I say this all the time. Esau is not he's not a spiritual creature. Everything that he does is carnal. Okay, they're by no means spiritual people. So what they're about to implement, it's not going to be a spiritual thing. It's going to be an actual mark. Again, going back to the word mark there, the Greek for that word is charagma, which goes back to the word charax, which goes into something inserted. So this is going to be something physically put inside the body. And it says in the right hand or in the forehead. Now, if you do your research and you study about this RFID chip, I mean, like I said, this is something they've been planning and plotting out for years. But now they have that actual technology to perform. Okay, this RFID technology this technology is capable of, connecting like the mind to, like a Neuralink, stuff, basically connecting. It has a technology of, basically connecting the mind to like a computer databases and things like that. So again, this is something. It's not a spiritual thing. This is something that is physically going to be put inside the body. And a lot of people ask, well, what if they force me to take it, or something along those lines. This is something that's Esau. He's going to want you to willingly take it. Because if that was the case, he can easily force the world to take it. But this is something, again, going back to, pledging your allegiance. Esau willingly wants the people to pledge their allegiance to him. If you go to I believe it's 1 Thessalonians. Bear with me. I don't have any of this. I don't have nothing really planned out. So I'm kind of just flowing through the spirit. So bear with me. I believe it's 2 Thessalonians 2. Let's see what that says. Yeah. 2 Thessalonians 2 and I'm gonna start at verse 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, which is Esau. Reading on, it says, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. So, understanding Esau's agenda, basically, they want to be like God. You have a whole doctrine in the world. They teach Lucifer, which is which they call Satan, fell from heaven, and he rebelled against God in heaven, and God cast him out of heaven, and all that's nonsense. Okay, Satan works for Yahawah. Okay, you could read about that in an account about that in Job chapter 1 verse where to start. We start at verse 5, Job 1 and 5. And it was so when the days of their feasting were gone about that Job sent and sanctified them and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. Verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before Yahawah, and Satan came also among them. So if Satan was cast out, what is he doing? What is he doing presenting himself unto the Most High, right? Reading on, it says, and Yahawah said unto him, Satan, whence comest thou? Then Satan answered Yahawah and said, from going to and fro in the earth and walking, and from walking up and down in it. So if you go to, what's that? Because you gotta understand, every single spirit that the Most High through his son Yahawashi created, we all have a lot in this thing. We all have a purpose. Okay. That includes Satan. Satan has a purpose as well, and his job is to walk to, basically his job is to deceive. That's what the word Satan, that's where that word derives from. It just basically means to deceive. The deceiver. That's what the word Satan goes into. Can't spell. So even Satan, he has a role to play as well. Here it is. 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. It says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. So it's Satan's job to deceive. Right? Going back to Job chapter 1 verse 7, and Yahawah said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Then Satan answered Yahawah and said, from going to and fro in the earth and from walking up and down in it. And Yahawah said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? So the point being, Satan, he was never once a top angel. Okay, he was, Yahawah BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI created Satan to be exactly who he is, the devil, a deceiver. And, he's deceived Esau into thinking, because like I said before, Esau, they know to a certain extent, they know these scriptures. Okay. And again, what they teach in the world, the doctrine in the world that, there's going to be one day there's going to be some miraculous battle, God against Satan. Listen, Satan works for the Most High. Okay. On the left-hand side, you have spirits on the right-hand side, and you have spirits on the left-hand side. Right. Satan is no more than a creature created on the left-hand side to do the will of the Heavenly Father. Okay, Satan is nothing but a pawn, just like all the other, spirits that the Lord created. Satan is no different. Okay, the scriptures talk about how, the Lord created good and evil. Get that real quick. Uh, actually, might be in that same the book of Job. Um, after Job went through hell and Job was, Job had everything taken from him. His wife, his own wife, started speaking foolishly, and Job responded, does not. Oh, here it is. Job 2 and verse Job chapter 2 verse 10, it says, "But he said unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil? And all this did not Job sin with his lips." So the point being, basically the Lord creates good and evil. A lot of times in the world they teach when something bad happens, oh, that's not of God, that's of Satan. Well, Satan works for the Most High, right? But I digress. So getting back to the point, Satan, being the great deceiver that he is, he's put it in the minds of Esau to think, basically that they have a chance. And Satan has put it into the minds of Esau so much that Esau really believes that he could sit on a high seat as God, as we just read in Second Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 4, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worship, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. So Esau, when they implement that chip, which is the RFID chip, when they implement the mark of the beast, basically they want the world to pledge allegiance to them, because again, they exalt themselves as God. So, they want to be like the Most High. So, I just want to get some history on, because again, a lot of people don't believe. You got some people that believe mark of the beast is the RFID chip, but you have some people that think it's not it's something else, and it's more spiritual, and accepting Christianity or accepting Satan's we're Lord's will, give some insight, because again, like I said before, it's important to know your words, to study the etymology of words. So we're going to jump to Exodus chapter 21 verse 6. It says, "Then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door, or unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever." So what is this going into? Okay, so this is going into basically a slave that doesn't want to leave his slave master, that master, to signify that slave being a servant, a perpetual servant forever, he would bore his ear through with an awl. Now again, you look up your words. It's important to look up the etymology of your words. Can't stress that enough. So let's look up some of these words. This word bore. Let's look that up real quick. That Hebrew. That's actually Hebrew for ratazai, which means like a piercing, to bore, pierce of the ear, to pierce through, to transfix. So again, Let's look up this word with an all. And that word all, if you okay, so that's actually Hebrew, the real Hebrew, that goes into Malratazai. So you have the word bor, which is ratazai, which is a piercing, and you have Malratazai, which is from piercing. Malratazai, from piercing, or basically the instrument that is used to do the piercing. Okay. Just like in certain scriptures, throughout the scriptures, you have, you'll see the word chariot, which is Hebrew for rakab, which is where you get the word cab, which is rakab is Hebrew for ride, and then you have marakab, which is, okay, you have the ride, and then you have the vehicle that takes you on that ride. So you have bor, which is ratazai, which is a piercing, and then you have Malratazai, which is the instrument that is used to do the piercing. And this was a way of this was a way of the slave master, going back to Exodus chapter 21 and verses 6. This is a way for the slave master to, this was a way of the master, the slave, signifying that he belonged to his particular master, or whoever ruled over him. They would bore his ear with an awl. So basically, it was, again, it all coincides. Okay, going back to that word, going back to the Greek word karagma, karax, something inserted. So the slave master would insert a piercing into that slave to signify that slave was basically his slave forever. Okay, and like I said, Esau, they know these scriptures to a certain extent. They know these things. So when it comes to the mark of the beast, which is that RFID chip, this is something that is going to be physically inserted into the body. Okay. Let me get Leviticus. Where's that at? 19. I think it was 29, 28. 28. Leviticus 19 to 28. You shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am Yahawah. Okay. So let's look up what that word. What does that say? That's actually Hebrew for kwai. If you look up that word, mark. Yeah. Kwai, which is something inserted, an incision, an incision. And this is regarding a law of getting tattoos, right? But yeah, that's something, an incision, which it says stigma, a mark branded on. A mark branded on. If you go to Galatians 6:17, from henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of YAHAWASHI HAMASHIach. Now let's look up what the word mark here means. The mark stigma. Let's see what that says. From primary stitzo, stick, example, to prick. A mark pricked in or branded upon the body. To ancient Oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name of the stamp of their master or commander, branded or pricked, cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belonged to. And there were even some devotees who stamped themselves in this way with the token of their gods. So you see how this all kind of correlates? Going back to Leviticus chapter, was that 19? That was 28. Going back to the word mark here, kwai, which goes into indecision, and it says stigma, which, as we just read, it goes back into a brand, basically a way of signifying who you belong to. Okay. Actually, I want to make a quick point back in Galatians, because again, basically, you have, like I stated before, you have spirits created on the right hand side. You have spirits that created on the left hand side. Okay. What was that, 17? So Paul, his marks. If you know anything about Paul, Apostle Paul, he went through. He had all kind of, bruises, and he had all kind of bruises and cuts, and he went through hell. But his marks, his stigma, was on the right hand side. His stigma, his marks, were for Yahawashi, right? On the right hand side. And like I said, you take that mark of the beast, that RFID chip, you get it inserted inside you. That's, you're pledging your allegiance to Esau, Satan, on the left hand side. Okay. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that comes to mind before I close out. Like I said earlier, there's going to come a point in time where, as you see things now, the shelves aren't as stocked as they were before. You see everything going digital. Everything's going digital, more digital. Everything's going digital, right? Things are going to get so bad in the society. See, one thing Esau likes to do, he likes to, and I've mentioned this before, he likes to create the problem and create the solution. Order out of chaos, or order out of chaos, right? Like I said, he likes to create the problem and then, present the solution. And this is something even the nations are starting to pick up on, right? Going back to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and I'm going to start at verse 1. Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of YAHAWASHI HaMashiach, and by our gathering together unto him, that ye be not shaken in mind or be troubled, neither by spirit nor by word, nor by letter as from us, as that day of YAHAWASHI is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first. So basically, Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, it had to come a point where, as a whole, we would have to forget our heritage. Reading on, it says, "And that no man of sin, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition." And so there will come a point in time where Esau, he will be revealed. And we're living in the times, well, Esau's been, he's been ever since the well, even before the YouTube era, but if you I believe the YouTube era started in 2007, I believe. I could be wrong. But even before that, you had the apostles, the great men of the men of Greatmillstone, exposing these devils before that. But around when the YouTube era started, that's when things really started. Esau really started getting these devils really started being shown for who they were, for who they really were. Okay, and that's why you see things starting to pick up, because the more you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians start waking up, basically the sooner we can get out of here. So Esau, they see these things. Their skirt is being revealed, so to say. These devils, I mean, all they're sitting back, they're getting pissed off because all their plans are being revealed. You read about how 9/11 was an inside job, like all their little secrets, they're not secrets no more. You read about the Illuminati and the international banking family. You read about all these things. If you do enough research, which again, a lot of our people don't do the research. A lot of our people are lazy, but nevertheless, these devils are being exposed, and that's why you see things starting to pick up. Things are starting to happen quicker. Why is that? Well, if you go to, I think that's 12, Revelations 12 and 12. Yeah, it says, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time." So again, through the spirit and power of YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, everything that Esau, basically the whole agenda is, is being revealed. So that's why you see things starting to pick up. Things are starting to happen quick. I mean, we're barely in the month of April, and I encourage anyone who sees this video to, start looking up videos of great millstones. Okay, because through the spirit, I believe that those apostles and elders and all the men, the spirit is dealing with that particular group. So I would encourage anyone who sees this video, just because the thing is, these doors of mercy, they're closing, and they're closing quick. So you get what you can while you can get it, while the buffet is open, because there's going to come a point in time where you're going to be seeking answers, looking for the men that have been teaching this truth for 20, 30 plus years. And it's going to come a point in time where, you know, this, listen, this internet is going to be done away with very soon. All this, I'm pretty sure, you know, having a Bible is going to be, you know, banned. It's going to be illegal, you know, to carry a Bible or whatever the case may be, you know. So I encourage, you know, people to first and foremost repent. Get what you can. Get what you can now before these doors, because what you see going on right now is the sealing of the ark. You know, you had back then, before the flood took place, you know, Noah was out there warning the people. He was warning the people, and until the day that the Lord closed that ark, and you know, it was too late. One thing I always mention when I talk to people is basically everything is spiritual now. So right now you have the spiritual ark being sealed. You know, through the prophets out there teaching on the highways and byways, you have, you know, there certain men out there teaching, warning the people, you know, like, get ready, like, repent, get yourselves together, because I mean, when that door's closed, I mean, it's a wrap. The scriptures talk about how, you know, gnashing and gashing of teeth and whatnot. You know, people are going to be, you know, people are going to be wailing and crying, and it's going to be too late. I'm going to close out with this. Romans chapter 15, verse 4. It says, "For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope." So again, I brought up the whole thing with with Noah and the ark. You know, Noah was a prophet, and you know, he was one of the people until the ark was until it was sealed. And the same thing is going on now. I'll look this up real quick. I believe it's Matthew's. No, okay. I can't spell. Oh man. It basically talks about how. What's that? Matthew 24, I think. Get it real quick. Lord's will. Bear with me real quick. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Matthew chapter 24. We'll start at verse 36. Matthew 24 and 36. "But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be." So just like back then, you know, Noah was out there preaching, warning the people. You know, nobody wanted to listen. Actually, going on, it says, "For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark." So just like back then, that's why I read Romans 15, chapter 15, verse 4. Everything written aforetime was written for our learning. So this is something we should learn from. You know, like it just read. Back in Noah's time, you know, people basically were living their normal lives. People getting up, going to work, turning up, partying, committing adultery, all kind of stuff until the day that Noah entered into the ark. Verse 39, it says, "And knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be." So, you know, again, you got the prophets out there warning the people, because there's set destruction coming. Real quick, I want to get Isaiah 59 and verse 19. Because Esau, he's about to come in. That's what you let me just read this first. Isaiah 59 verse 19. So shall they fear the name of Yahawah from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of Yahawah shall lift up a standard against him. So the point I want to get when it says when the enemy shall come in like a flood. So just like during the time of Noah, when the flood came, that's when people wanted to start repenting. That's when people wanted to get right, but it was too late. So there's going to be another, like I just mentioned, everything is spiritual now. Or everything has a spiritual concept, I should say, because like I said, that RFID chip, the mark of the beast, it's not a spiritual thing. That's something that's physically going to be inserted into you. But when Esau comes in like a flood, and that spiritual ark is sealed and the doors of mercy are closed, it's going to be too late. So that's why, I encourage my people, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians, start getting yourselves together, start getting yourselves right if you haven't already, while you can, because like I said, man, they're about to shut this internet down. I mean, all hell's about to break loose out here. So, Lord's will, anyone who watches this video, you were edified. Lord's will, I can continue doing videos through the spirit and power of YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI. Once again, I want to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Greatmillstone, the men set up teaching and preaching His truth and sincerity, and those that rule well. So with that being said, shalom, shalom to all. Until next time.